Saturday, we saw Tennessee beat South Carolina 41-20. We saw Cooper Mays make his season debut and play almost the entire game, 70 of 74 snaps. What did you think about what you saw, and did it affect any of your thoughts about what Tennessee can be moving forward into the final 2 months of the season?
No, it really didn't. I thought Tennessee would win the game. I thought Tennessee was superior in the line of scrimmage, and that played out in the game. I think I told you guys last week that I just didn't think South Carolina would measure up in the two areas that counted, stopping the run and running the football, and certainly they couldn't protect Spencer Rattler. So I think Tennessee is about what I thought they were, and I understand people say, wait a minute, they were awful against Florida, but you look around the league, and there are a lot of teams that have had bad outings or just so-so outings. So Tennessee's not alone there. And I think a lot of it depends on how much they grow, how much some of their younger guys continue to develop. You know, and losing Brew McCoy was a big blow to that receiving core, and clearly some other guys are going to have to step up. And how does the passing game mature the rest of the season? I think that's a big – and it's not all on Joe. And everybody looks at the quarterback and says, well, he's not this or he can't do that or he's not good enough in this area. You know, they got to protect better. Receivers got to get open. He's got to be better at throwing the ball on time and hitting some of those intermediate passes that they have not connected on enough of to this point. See, I think that's the one area where you look at and say, okay, if they're going to beat the best teams left in their schedule, they got to be better in the passing game, period. And that's not just Joe. They've run the football well in every game but the Florida game, and which is, I think, frustrating for Josh Heupel and everybody on that staff, because Kentucky absolutely just torched Florida running the football last week. But, no, I think Tennessee still is right where I thought they'd be for the most part. They sort of, to quote Denny Green, they sort of who I thought they were to start the season. And I guess the thing that maybe I'm a little bit surprised at, and this is not just Tennessee, is I didn't realize we'd have this amount of teams in the league that are pretty close to each other. I mean, I don't know what the number is. Is it 6? Is it 7? Is it 8? That are all pretty similar depending on how healthy everyone's going to be down the stretch and how much teams improve, where you play, how many tough road stretches you have, and how you play that day and whether you turn it over. I think this is as close as we've seen the top half of the league, at least, in a long time.
Chris Lowe, ESPN, how confident are you that the Tennessee pass rush can be sustained? I know South Carolina's offensive line not that good, but do you think we see this pass rush for Tennessee continue to be a big part in Tennessee's chances to win and influence and impact games?
That's one of the strengths of this team, Swain, and it has been really just about every game. Again, I think we could, the exception just about with everything is that Florida game. I think we would all agree. That was just a stinker, man. That's one you want to probably flush the tape and not watch again. But to me, that's the strength of this football team, is being after the quarterback and affecting the quarterback. And Rodney, I had a chance to talk to Rodney yesterday, and he feels like there's still another level for that group to keep coming and to keep getting more disruptive in that defensive front and pressuring the quarterback off the edge and up the middle. And I think that's where they are really good right now and can still get a lot better. So, yeah, I think that that is one of those things. If you're a Tennessee fan, you look at it and you say, boy, that's something to hang your hat on. Now, as you point out, the Gamecocks are starting 2 true freshmen in their offensive line. So Tennessee's going to face tougher tests down the road, and it really sort of starts after this open day with 3 teams. They're all pretty good in the offensive line: Texas A&M, Alabama, and Kentucky.
Yeah, and those next 2, Texas A&M next week and then going to Tuscaloosa the following week, play each other this week, Chris. Chris Lowe, ESPN, with us. What do you think about those 2 teams? What do you think about that matchup this weekend in College Station?
It's really intriguing to me, Josh. I'm actually going to fly out early in the morning to go to College Station for that game. It's in some sense, I think it's sort of an elimination game in the West. You know, think about it. Alabama loses, that'll be the earliest they've been out of the SEC race. I say out of it, but certainly on the outside looking in a long time. And, you know, neither team has lost in the conference. So, you know, you don't say out of it, but, boy, it'd be tough to come back after losing so early in the league. So it's I wouldn't say it's a loser leave town type of game. And it's a game where I think a lot of the spotlight's going to be on the quarterback position for A&M because Max Johnson, number 2, is in. This is his first real test, I guess you could say. And then Jalen Milroe. Milroe's been hit a lot. I won't say he's hurt, but he's been giving up a ton of sacks this year. And he's a guy that runs around anyway. That's part of his game. So you wonder, with as many times as he's already been sacked, as many times as he's been hit, how many more hits do you have in you? And you're not even to the halfway point yet. I think that's certainly a concern for Alabama. Bama's really good on defense and probably better than any of us have given them credit for. I was at the Ole Miss game 2 weeks ago, and they absolutely shut Ole Miss down. The same Ole Miss team that gained 9,000 yards last week against LSU. So that's their calling card. It's a little bit like those older school Bama teams. You think back to when Jake Coker was there and even Greg McElroy, maybe Blake Sims, where they just dictated how they wanted to play on defense and played complementary offense. Now, is that good enough in this age of football to win and go win a championship or get to the playoff? I think we're going to find out. But I do think this is an intriguing game. Both these coaches with a long, at times complex history. I don't think they trade Christmas cards. In fact, I know they don't. Playing at Kyle Field, one of the tougher venues to play in all of college football. It's got a chance to be a really good and I think a telltale game in this league.
You mentioned the LSU Ole Miss game. LSU, they have Matt House, one of the best defensive coordinators in the country before this year. You have all that talent, LSU, all those athletes. How did we get to the point, Chris, where LSU's defense is so bad?
I don't know, and I don't want to give them a pass, Swain, because there's no way they deserve a pass. But again, you look across the league to this point, and there's just been sort of stinkeroos by just about every team that you sort of scratch your head and say, God, how could they be that bad? Even you go back to the Tennessee-Florida game. But LSU, and I was there in August, they've got some real dudes on defense, man, some guys that will play at the next level and probably play a long time at the next level. And as I watched that game, and I got a chance to watch a lot of it, I didn't have to go anywhere last week, so I was able to sort of lock in and watch a bunch of football across the board. Two things jumped out at me about that LSU defense. Number one, and there's no other way to say it, there were tons of loafs in that game for LSU players. Loafs/missed tackles, slash poor angles, just bad technique all the way around when it comes to playing defense. And they're too talented. There's no way, I don't care who they're playing. And listen, Jackson Dart was great. Charlie Weiss Jr., who calls the plays there for Lane. Now, Lane's certainly involved, had just a masterful game calling plays. But there's no way a defense with the kind of talent that LSU has should ever give up 55 points and 700 yards. And if I'm not mistaken, didn't Ole Miss have it down there early, close another time, either threw a pick or missed a field goal or something? So it could have been 60-plus. And I know LSU fans are peeved and they're frustrated, because they gave up 30-plus points to Arkansas in a win that went right down to the wire. And I really believed and still believe that if you took the top 40 on every team in the league, I'm talking about players, LSU's in the top 3 or 4 of those teams. But they certainly aren't even playing close to it like right now in defense.
Hey, Chris, what do you think about Kentucky, which is riding high off that win over Florida, now going to Georgia, which was able to get the win at Auburn last week?
Yeah, wait and see. Still sort of wait and see, Josh. I think Mark Stoops is a terrific football coach. I think he's done as well at Kentucky as anybody could have. It's hard to believe he's in his 11th year there. And I think this team mirrors what he wants in a team. They're running the ball. They're stopping the run. They're sort of gritty and nasty on defense. They have not been tested, though. And again, I know they beat the brakes off Florida, but I think everybody that loses to Florida at the end of the season are going to look back on it and say, geez, how do we lose to Florida? And Tennessee's going to be in that group. So other than Florida, though, they haven't played anybody. So I think we find out a lot more about Kentucky. I don't diminish what they are, what he's built this year. Devin Leary was a big upgrade, I think, at quarterback, even though he hasn't had to throw the ball a lot. but I think he fits. Even though Levis was very talented, I think he fits what Kentucky wants in a quarterback probably a little bit better. They play offense, defense, a bit more complementary football. But much like Tennessee's got some big tests coming up. Kentucky's got a lot of big tests, and the teeth of their schedule is the second half of the season and not the first half.
Chris Lowe, ESPN.com. So you're headed to College Station tomorrow. I think that's going to be a great game. Even down last year and not playing great football 2 years ago, they beat Bama and almost did last year. So I think we get a really good one this weekend.
Yeah, and A&M's they're a better team than they showed against Miami. I would equate what happened to A&M in Miami to what happened to Tennessee at Florida. I think both teams are better than they showed in those games. And I think we get a much better reading on where A&M is this weekend against Alabama.
Chris, safe travels down to Texas A&M this weekend. Look forward to your coverage. We appreciate the time as always, and we'll talk to you again next week.
Look forward to it. See you guys.